Major funding for these broadcasts is made possible by grants from Capital One Bank, New York Community Bank, Eastern Consolidated, M&T Bank, Sterling National Bank, Meridian Capital Group, Customers Bank, Ariel Property Advisors, Dime Community Bank. Additional funding is made possible by grants from AM Trust Title, AVR Realty Company, Avison Young, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, Bank Leumi USA, Briarwood Organization, CBRE, Chase Commercial Term Lending, Chase Commercial Mortgage, Citizens Bank, CPEX Real Estate Services, Colliers International NYC, Cohen Equities, Collins Building Services, Douglaston Development, Levine Builders, Flushing Bank, Friedman LLP, Handler Real Estate Organization, Handro Properties, Hodges Ward Elliott Inc., Investors Bank, James D. Kuhn Real Estate Institute at Syracuse University, Kilroy Architectural Windows, Madison Realty Capital, Matone Group, Mercantile Bank, New Banks, Newmark Knight Frank, Optimum Window Manufacturing Corp., People's United Bank, Rockefeller Group, Rosewood Realty Group, SJP Properties, Stonehenge Partners, TD Bank, Terra CRG, the Meringoff Family Foundation, the Moynihan Organization, Moynihan Capital Partners, and these friends.
It's Queens. It's a place that everybody wants to go to. It's the place where everybody's moving to. It's the place that we're having office conversions. We're seeing changes. So today I've assembled this group of distinguished leaders to provide their insight on what's happening in the residential and industrial in Queens. My guests include Tom Donovan. You were originally a Queens boy, right?
100%.
100% born and bred, who is the vice chairman at Cushman and Wakefield. George Doerre, who is the vice president of M&T Bank. Without the lender, we can't do anything in Queens. David Schechtman, who is the senior executive managing director at Meridian Investment Sales. And last but not least, the land use guy who understands the zoning, who is the general counsel, Matt Lawrence, general counsel at Criterion Development Group. So since you're the boy from Queens, what has been going on these days in Queens with regard to residential market?
Well, residential market is on fire. Cap rates are compressed. They're down, in some cases, as low as 2%. Rents are going up. Vacancy rate is less than 2%. So, Queens,
what do you attribute it
to? Population growth. People wanted to be in Queens. Better transportation. Transportation's gotten better with the 7 train extending to the west side. So that whole 7 line became very, very desirable. Elmhurst, Sunnyside, Woodside.
Now, here's an interesting thing. When we were sitting before David arrived, okay, Matt and I were talking. Matt recently relocated from Carroll Gardens in Brooklyn to Court Square. So being, involved with the land use, how do you look at the difference today from being Brooklyn into Queens?
Well, it's funny. When I lived in Brooklyn, my commute was over an hour to get to Manhattan or to get to Queens. I moved to Court Square. My commute into Manhattan is 15 minutes if I want. The 7 train, the E, the M, there's so many more transportation options now. And, I think Queens is more of a hidden gem. It's a lot quieter, honestly, than Brooklyn. Brooklyn's an established neighborhood, whereas in Queens and Long Island City, you're really seeing It's a newer neighborhood.
I know your Astoria, which is has been a hidden gem for years, but it's really hasn't reached its heights because of transportation. You guys are involved with something in Astoria, right?
Yeah, I mean, we have developments in Long Island City. Almost our entire staff is living in Long Island City or Astoria. Shibber grew up since he was 4 years old in Astoria, so we're very intimate, familiar with both of those markets. And we have a project right on Vernon Boulevard where the new ferry is opening up. Hopefully that opens in a couple years. And you know, both of those neighborhoods, I think Astoria I lived in for a year, very more established neighborhood. Long Island City really up and coming, and still a lot of industrial there.
As a bank, how do you look at the Queens market, specifically the Long Island City and Astoria?
We like it because of all the things mentioned prior. The transportation is fantastic. You really have to take that ride out there on the subway and realize just how close you are. In fact, a lot of times closer than parts of Manhattan or Brooklyn. And I'll throw in even the F train because we're seeing some of the Long Island City interest moving even a little bit further north. It's a place people want to be. It's a neighborhood. I was shocked. We did a big construction loan out there a couple months before it closed. I found myself out there on a Saturday night. People are out. There's life. There's nightlife. There's comedy clubs. It's catching, and it's really well located.
David, for the kid who grew up in Canarsie, how do you see the Queens market, Long Island City, and Astoria?
Sure. You know, 20 years ago, you needed to make it a destination. You'd go to Flushing for Asian food, or you'd go for different parts, you know, for Latin food. And there were a couple of pillars, couple of destinations. Shea Stadium, it'll always be Shea Stadium to me. You had industrial parts of Queens, obviously LaGuardia, which now has a $6 billion influx of cash, and some of the parks. So people would come out to Queens as a destination, but it was more of a bedroom community, and it would be people who didn't want Brooklyn and may have been priced out of Long Island. I think in the past 10 years, what's happened in Queens is even more so than Brooklyn. I don't have the numbers to support it. I wish Shimon Scurry were here. He'd have the numbers. But I think Queens is a better live-work situation at the moment than Brooklyn. Flushing is one of the most active Asia towns in the United States because it's not just Chinese, and that's been live-work for decades, and it's expanding. We have Willets Point. Long Island City might as well be Williamsburg or Manhattan. We know how hot that is. That's old hat. But you're now talking about Woodhaven. You have warehouses in College Point that are housing office. And you're having, you know, residential zoning and changes everywhere. I think Queens has a decade to 15 years worth of continued growth with no hiccups, notwithstanding the market in general.
Yeah, but you just brought up a topic which, you know, there's mixed emotion on with regard to the industrial. Over the last, let's say, 4 to 5 years, many properties throughout the entire city, specifically in Brooklyn and in Queens in general, and quietly in the Bronx now, are industrial buildings, which we have a need for industrial buildings, where people have converted them to office buildings, not to residential. Where do you see that market today? Because in my opinion, there's maybe too much which has been converted, and there's really not that need today for that much office space, and it would be better use if it was just industrial.
Well, I think that's exactly right, and I think what you're going to see is the pendulum switch back to the two poles again, and I think the poles are residential and industrial. I think the Googleification of the world and the Amazonification of the world, every owner would love to land their warehouse, which is kind of mediocre office right now because that was in vogue 7 or 8 years ago. They were getting $18 to $30 a foot in the best locations, and Tommy will confirm that. Those offices are going to be less desirable as offices because there's so much of them. They may get more money for industrial and certainly residential. There's a surface parking lot near LaGuardia right now, a surface lot. It's probably 500,000 square feet developable. The owners have actually decided that they could make $40 a foot as a surface parking lot. it's not worth it for them to take the enterprise risk to develop this into hotel and residential.
How do you see this
Well,
on this industrial?
Well, it's interesting because not all industrial is created equal. There's such a spectrum, especially, not to go off topic, but as you get outside of the city, there's such a discrimination between your ceiling heights from the old 18 to 22, as now it's 36 and even more. And oh, by the way, there's all the things about the right loading docks and level floors. That's not the product we're seeing in inner, previously developed parts of the city. But what's interesting is we are seeing people staying with that industrial space. They're not saying, let us make a WeWork, let us make it super flash and sexy. You walk into some of these buildings, you'll have one place that, you know, if you spun around, you might think you're in a C+, B- Manhattan office building of 15 years ago. And you go into the next one and it's a working workshop. And we hear about the fear of gentrification as you're driving all these trade jobs out of the city. You're never going to get back to that mass industrial, sort of Lucy and Ethel at the chocolate factory, but that artisanal workshop, the woodworkers, the upholsterers, they still need a place, and a lot of their output is very high value add, and they can afford those rents. And I agree, don't go past the answer, don't overinvest.
I have a good example. I have a dear friend who's in the catering business. He had his place on Christie Street for a number of years, and then he was looking around. He said, the Bronx, I'm going to have trouble with the Triborough Bridge and everything else. He says, Jersey, I'm going to have the other problems over here. So he ended up in Long Island City, and he's fortunate that he's an industrial caterer in a section, and he's only 10 minutes into the city, you know, depending on traffic. So that's the situation. Now, you have an industrial property over there.
Yeah, I mean, so one of our buildings is the Fresh Direct building there. But even, you know, just living in Long Island City, I have 10 breweries or 3 breweries within 10 blocks. And I love that type
Beer
of
brewers?
use. I love beer brewers, yeah. And I love that type of use where you can see it being made, you can taste it in the tasting room. And I think that's really the type of industrial that Long Island City is attracting.
What's happening in sales in Queens?
Well, like the gentleman was just saying, 10 years ago, 15 years ago, actually pre-2006, when they did the big major rezoning of Williamsburg, no matter where you were in Queens, rents were $8 to $12 a foot, and they sold for $80 to $100 a foot. Now we're seeing industrial rents as high as $25 and $30 and $40 a foot, and we just put one under contract for $461 a foot.
It's an industrial property.
Industrial
To remain as
an industrial user, and all the bidders were all in the same pocket, and they all fought with each other. Said, "We'll pay the number as long as we get it," because on the properties, either it's a 5,000 foot user growing to a 10,000 foot building, or a 20,000 foot shrinking to a 10,000. So you have big pockets of people vying for a product that 80% of it was taken away over the last 15 years by gentrification.
Tommy can confirm this. He sees a ton of it. What you've seen is as retail has evolved or devolved, however you want to look at it, and so much of what we buy in the consumer goods is coming from out of state, but it still needs to be in-state distribution centers. You're going to have retailers who are able to pay $400 and $500 a foot on major avenues. It's now the industrial owners and the industrial users who are distribution centers, light assembly, and sellers direct to consumers. They can pay the new retail rents. It's fascinating. Yesterday's distribution center is today's retail rent.
Now,
as he just said a minute ago, we're also seeing these crafty, artisanal type users where they have their workshop in one corner, the back corner is their supply area, and then they have a little 1,000 square foot showroom in front. So you walk in a place, you see a nice little showroom, and then they're making the product in one thing and storing it on the other side. So, and nondescript building, all of a sudden you walk inside, and it's really, really cool.
what about
space.
Sunnyside?
I love it.
Why do you love it?
I love everything about it. It's a family neighborhood. It has some sexiness to it. You could be in Manhattan 12 minutes, 15 minutes. You could be in Long Island 25 minutes. There's apartment buildings, there's single family homes, there's restaurants. Bar Rescue just had one of the bars there that did a whole bar revamp. Woodside and Sunnyside, I think Vogue magazine had it as like one of the top 10 sexiest places in the United States to live.
I think New York Magazine wrote the article that Long Island City is one of the highest neighborhoods, the highest desired neighborhoods in the country.
I think Queens, one of the papers last week had 3 neighborhoods in Queens as top 10 to live in New York City. it was like Ridgewood, Sunnyside, and Woodside or something. Ridgewood, Bayside, and Sunnyside.
So now I'm going to ask you about a section of Queens, because we're specifically talking about Queens, which really hasn't seen much because of their proximity to the trains, the Rockaways. The Rockaways are part of Queens. What's your thoughts as a banker on the Rockaways?
Well, it's a little bit different dynamic, as you note. You're getting a different clientele. You have a very long train ride, if you're even doing a train ride at all. I think you still see a dynamic of it's a car-centric area. It's people doing a little bit of a reverse commute out to the island, or even have their way into the city and may still be working in Lower Manhattan or now Brooklyn. We're happy to entertain it. We can prove out the rents we need.
I think Auburn by the Sea, when it was initially built, it was a low price, affordable housing type of development. Some of those buildings are being sold for 4 to 5 times what they sold for. Now, on the planning point of view, they just passed the rezoning in the Rockaways. Any thoughts about that, Matt?
I mean, I think it's smart. I think there's a lot of flood resiliency you have to build into that area, being on an island. But, I love going there. I think it really can't support that much density because there is only one train. And for the most part, you should only have 2 family houses out there, which, that's the community for that area, I think.
You, David?
I think the Rockaways will continue to mirror parts of Nassau County. I think it's the biggest challenge, as we stated, is topography. I mean, you've got the ocean on one side and you've got an elevated train trestle. That train goes down, the express buses can't support it. I also think, unfortunately, the Rockaways has, very disparate groups in it. And it's not really unified in the sense that there's folks who are disenfranchised. I think it needs better schools and better infrastructure before it could really be anything more than enclaves.
I was with a physician who's been in practice for 40 years in the Rockaways, and unfortunately there's only one hospital in the Rockaways, St. John's, and it lacks, you are limited because you have the 2 bridges, and that's your only way to get on the island. Part of it is now, with the ferries, which I think is going to help Queens and the Rockaways. But the biggest problem I see today with the ferry, taking the ferry once myself to see how it is from Brooklyn to Queens and so on, is if that ferry is packed, you have to wait another 45 minutes. It's not like a subway that number 7, 5 minutes later where you can have, but it's limited.
Yeah,
So.
It's a limited ferry now. I think they're still working the kinks out. It's a very new service. I think people were surprised by the demand because it is such a fun way to take your commute into Manhattan. You can see the entire skyline on a beautiful day.
In the warm weather.
Yeah, in the warm weather.
I think
I have a lot to say about
I
this.
think Tom's comment is very important because I remember Jeff Levine once saying to me, who owns property in Williamsburg, he said, it's a little cold standing waiting for the ferry in the heart of the winter with the winds going over there.
When Auburn was announced 12 years ago, I thought they were nuts. I lived in the Rockaways. My house got hit by the plane that crashed on Veterans Day in 2001. My mother still lives there. One part of it is really beautiful. Center wasn't so much. Downtown, when the Orthodox came in, got nice. If you go there today, I was shocked. I just came to market with a land site, so I was doing my due diligence on it. And the whole peninsula now is, for the most part, gentrified on the beach side. The bay side, not as much, but it's still nice the whole way. But you go to the bungalow bar on a Saturday, and it's cool. There's boats pulling up, people drinking. And then you go to the ferry, which is a few blocks down, and there's 300 people waiting online. Summertime, people don't really mind waiting by Beach Channel High School. When it's raining or when it's 30 degrees and that wind is howling, and it's not going to be as much. So I think as a summertime community, it's pretty cool. In the wintertime, there's no place to eat, there's no place to drink. You got to pay a toll no matter where you go. And God forbid, there's some, the bridges go down. It takes an hour to get from Neponset down to Far Rockaway. Right. An hour driving.
Matt, you were talking before when we were in the green room about the additional rezoning. What's happening in Queens?
Long Island City is doing a core study right now of that Queens Plaza area that was rezoned. The city in their first initial public comment said that they kind of messed up. They wanted more of a mixed use than it ended up being. There were a lot of residential towers that ended up going up, and they're revisiting that area to see if they can bring more mixed use, to bring more affordable housing. And I think it's a great idea, but it needs to certainly still have a residential component there.
Isn't it a little bit too late to change the zoning after 16,000 units have already been built and most of the topography is already taken over? You're not going to knock down a brand new building.
No, and I think effectively you've got like the clock tower site that's still being developed, I think, by the Doerre family. Couple other sites, but you're right, there really aren't many left. Zoning's a slow process, so it's decades, not years, for a course correction.
And what about Hallett's Point? Hallett's Point, the negative is the transportation, correct?
Yeah, I would say, but the ferry opened right across the street. We're just south of Hallett's Point on Vernon Boulevard there. If the streetcar ever comes, who knows? That could be right around there as well.
I think you're bringing up a very interesting point. I know the Willetises and a number of other people are really big advocates of the streetcar, the BQX, whatever it's called over there. Any thoughts of the neighborhoods getting better because of the BQX?
I can't help but to smile. But, I would never bet against folks who actually built a carousel right on the water in the Willetises and the pioneer of that caliber. But I think that there are less novel and more efficient ways to move people, including express buses and express lanes. I had the good fortune of spending a lot of time in Hallett's Point in August for some assignments. And I will tell you, it really mirrors parts of Brooklyn Heights and Dumbo along the water, which are just phenomenal destinations. The big challenge, however, is I could take certain trains to those parts of Brooklyn, or a really inexpensive cab ride. To get to Hallett's Point, I have to cross bridges, and I've got tolls, and it's going to really hinder
How
growth.
long is the commute forget the ferry, to get to Hallett's Point from Midtown Manhattan?
Depends on how you're doing
Depends
it.
what time of the day.
If you take an Uber at 12 o'clock from Midtown Manhattan, it's a $27 Uber drive, and it's a solid 22 minutes.
And, okay, what if you're trying to go by mass transportation?
It's 25 minutes to the train station, and then either a 25-minute walk or $7 Uber.
But didn't we have that in certain parts of Astoria also? Depending on, where Pistelli converted some of the Eagle Electric properties.
I think you always had the buses, Michael. I think one of the great things about Astoria is, and it's largely a function of being in line with the airport, but you had much better bus service at all times to Astoria. And the thing about Astoria was it was a bedroom community first. Hallett's Point wasn't necessarily a bedroom community. It moved away from industrial. Great Greek enclave in Astoria. And then people followed and it became hotter. I don't think people are going to discover Hallett's Point until it's a hop, skip, and a jump away.
Okay, so let's go to another area where the rezoning was allegedly approved, the Willets Point. What's really happening in Willets Point now? Matt?
I think there were a lot of infrastructure issues, and I think until those are solved, nothing really is going to change at Willets Point. And rightfully so. I think there's tremendous density there already. I think the infrastructure is overtaxed, and I think the state and the city really need to speak to each other and kind of figure out the best way to
I mean, the big benefit on Willets Point is you do have the subway stop right there.
Yeah.
So,
but there's one. I mean, there's
right,
one stop.
It's an enlarged stop because of the proximity to Citi Field.
And to the tennis.
But I think you have a greater challenge there, and I think you have some real environmental concerns which require, for obvious reasons, with all the automotive and fabrication over the years, you have some real environmental concerns. I think the answer for Willets Point, the New York Islanders belong there. And I don't think that this should be a bond issue. I think private money needs to come to Willets Point. I think those owners need to be paid, not in the form of a condemnation or taking. I think you need to erect a for-profit stadium and tax it heavily.
What about the Kew Gardens, Forest Hills, okay? Right near the expressway where you have a number of people, the Woodhaven Boulevard. You grew up, you know that neighborhood well.
Well, my office is there too. My office is on Queens Boulevard. And, it's a fantastic neighborhood. Dense diverse. There's restaurants. There's there's the Bahrain Jewish community that really took over. Kew Gardens has office buildings. Forest Hills has office buildings. All the major families own there. You come to a market like Astoria, it's one of the recession-proof places. No matter what market it is, you come.
So you're
to
saying that the Kew Gardens Forest Hills neighborhood is similar to the Astoria market?
Different demographic, but those two neighborhoods, in my opinion, are recession-proof.
Bulletproof.
If we're in the worst market, you come to a market with a good apartment building in one of those neighborhoods, you'll have every major family coming out of the woodwork to take a look at it.
You also have stops on the Long Island Railroad in those neighborhoods.
You have stops along the railroad, but from Union Turnpike to Midtown Manhattan, 25 minutes, 4 stops.
Okay, what about Bayside and Briarwood area?
Again, beautiful neighborhoods, but they have a little bit of a transportation issue.
Requires a car.
Yeah.
When you're looking at lending into the regions, how important is transportation?
I think that's something we, for better or for worse, get to sort of be downstream of the dream, and we just have to see if we can improve the rents. I think for pioneering areas, how is the transportation going to work is a bigger deal, because if you already have people in the market, so like a Bayside is established, okay, you need a car, but that's your demographic. You can be clever, use the LIRR versus MTA, but we like it all. I think the New York multifamily, again, just continues to, it's that tailwind of population growth. It's the obsolescence. People talk about, your 1% a year that you have to regenerate. There's a demand, and that's something we can never take for granted. The population. New York is still a destination for people, and whether it's young up-and-comers or it is some amount of immigration, that's a tailwind we just really, and being a little bit land constrained, between zoning, between being fully built out in some of these areas. I would even add, we don't do a ton of condo conversion or inventory financing out that way, but the demand for buyers in some of these markets, if you can take a building, and some of these have been busted condos where somebody tried and kind of stubbed their toe a little bit, and let's say in the 80s or 90s, the demand, people breaking down the door to get in.
I mean, the interesting phenomenon is with the Asian community in Flushing, everything is a condo, okay? It's not only the apartments, it's the retail Chinese restaurant or all the bar, everything, because of the complex of the people they want to own. And that's what's happening. And that's why Queens, Flushing is really doing well. And I see this continuing. And I think, for an investor point of view, it's a market that people should evaluate and continue to do well. I'd like to thank Mr. Donovan, Matt, George Doerre, my friend Mr. Schechtman.